Nick Kroll and John Mulaney.
Yes.
They're both brilliant stand-ups, but they're promoting Oh Hello on Broadway. It's now through January the 15th at the Lyceum Theater. It's on West 45th Street.
Yes.
ohhellobroadway.com if you want tickets. These shows do sell out.
I got to see it on Broadway. It seemed like just a major... It just felt like an accomplishment to see this show get put on Broadway, because you could tell it was something that Nick and John really wanted to put on and to put all this time. And it must have been hard to get made, and the fact that it was shown on Broadway and everything, and people were laughing in the audience and enjoying it was cool to see. Welcome, guys.
What's up, guys?
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
We're good. We were in the room when you were saying all those nice things.
Yes. It got uncomfortable by minute 45. I was like, wow, I should just ask them how they did it.
We sat down.
We had
so
Jim
slowly.
Norton on the show off Broadway. That's how we did it. That's how we got the
That's
run.
right.
That's true.
At the Cherry Lane.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was a fun show to do.
Is it? I was thinking about that. The fact that one of the segments in the play has a different interview guest, and I feel like if I was putting on a play, I wouldn't want the extra stress of also having to book a guest for every night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's probably pretty similar to what you guys do. You just deal with you do your show, and then you have this element of guests and people coming in. You sort of host them, and you sort of just move on and keep doing the show.
Yeah.
Do you like it because it keeps it fresh? Like, as stand-ups, it's kind of hard to... I mean, we do the same thing every night, but it's kind of harder to go off book if you're in a script.
We have a good amount of improvising just in the rest of the play, but the interview does make it fresh, and also helps place the show in time, because you're doing the same thing every night, and then you're doing the same thing twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, and there is a weird thing where you're in the middle of the play, and I'll think what day is it? Where are we? How many times have we done this? You just done it a million times.
Right. You just lose track of everything.
You can at least go that was the night Seth Rogen came. That was the night Stephen Colbert came.
Right.
And John, and also John's getting very good at dropping the names of the people who've done the show so far.
You know what? That's not funny. You know what? That's not funny to accuse me of being obnoxious.
Okay.
When I'm trying to publicize the show.
Okay. Let's just do it. Let's talk about other stuff.
All right.
Then.
Let's do our personas that were like each other.
Do you worry though with the guests that people are, have you done any shows where people are disappointed because you'll say yeah, Seth Rogen was here and Alan Alda was here, and then somebody comes on who's a star but they're not Alan Alda?
Yeah, I think people have an expectation sometimes. If you introduce someone and they're like, no, that's not the most famous person in the world.
I know. I experienced that walking out on stage. I've seen those blank, uncomfortable stares.
It was just it was amazing. I went to an SNL a few weeks ago, and Emily Blunt and Bruno Mars were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And while that's happening, the thing comes up on the screen that says, next week, Lady Gaga and Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. And the audience audibly went, oh.
Yeah.
Because they were they're more famous than the people that we're seeing.
It can happen that way. I think, the truth is, we've had guests who are, you have very famous people and then they're not actually fun. And very quickly the audience forgets who they're, once you get past, ladies and gentlemen, John Mulaney, and people are bummed out about that. Then you, once you're there up on stage and you just start talking.
Once they realize I'm not going to do time, they're
relieved.
They're relieved.
They're very comfortable.
It's forced. Robin Bird, perfect example. Yeah. Not every person in the theater knew who Robin Bird was, even though she is
Jim, do you know who Robin Bird is?
I know the name, but I don't know what she does.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
No.
That's so...
Well, you didn't grow up in New York City, right?
I grew up in Jersey.
Yeah.
What does Robin Bird do?
Robin Bird hosted a cable access show that interviewed porn stars and strippers.
Okay, yeah. Then I know the name. I just didn't...
Yeah.
She and Al Goldstein brought a famous case against the Supreme Court about...
not against the Supreme Court.
No, they went against the Supreme Court. It was Bird Goldstein v. Supreme Court.
Yes, it drove Thurgood Marshall into retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted to take over as just two justices in the Supreme Court.
But people didn't exactly know who she was, and then, or some people did. The people who grew up, I used to come into New York City and go to my friend's house and watch Robin Bird and see her interview strippers and porn stars. It was amazing. People didn't quite know who she was, but then once you get into the interview, it's just super fun and interesting talking to this woman who's been and done and seen everything and everyone.
We also bring people up from the audience sometimes as our guests, and I swear those are the best interviews.
They are, right? Because they're not people who are used to being interviewed or talking.
Yes. Like,
they have nothing to protect.
Like
everybody's discovering this person together. So like John picked a guy out of the crowd last week, and we brought him up. He's a guy with a mustache, and he gets on stage, and we're like, originally this was right before the election. He's from Ohio,
from Defiance, Ohio,
but it was then realized that he lives in New York, and he's a cop in New York, a cop who works in like community relations. And it was just a super interesting guy to talk to a cop.
He's NYPD community outreach to bridge the gap between people and cops.
So it was like our characters. It was like he had to he deals with guys like us all day long.
Yeah. Right.
Complaining about like, Gestapo tactics, but then also freaked out as like a black person.
The squeegee guy came to it.
Yeah, exactly. So they all end up fun as long as we have details, as long as the person's willing to talk to us.
Right.
How'd you get Alan Alda? He seems like he's hard to get to do things. He's older,
Yeah, we've been after him for years. We've been trying to get him for Kroll show. We've been trying to get him for a lot of stuff. And then I honestly think it was Louis' show.
Yeah.
We had connections through to Horace and Pete.
Through Horace and Pete and a guy named Dave Becky.
And so I think we just worked it through that, and then he had heard
and also
enough about it.
The word Broadway helped.
Yeah,
sure.
As opposed to like, do you want to meet two Muppets? It's like, do you want to do?
Yeah, I guess it's different than trying to get him to do your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got some momentum. In the beginning, though, it was like, it's called Oh Hello on Broadway. We want you to do a segment called Too Much Tuna. By the way, my name's John. He's Nick. We don't play John and Nick. We play old men. You'll get served tuna fish. Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And a lot of people were just sort of confused.
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
It took like, you get a little press about people doing it, and it helps.
Who were you the most nervous to have on? There must have been somebody who, like, one of you really looked up to.
Marcia Clark.
Marcia Clark, the OJ prosecutor.
She did it?
Yeah, she's in LA.
She was on
That's
our LA
amazing.
version.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, David Byrne, too.
Yeah, we had David Byrne from the Talking Heads and much more this past weekend, which was rad.
I blew his intro really badly because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I was like, he's an acclaimed composer. I started.
He was like an acclaimed composer. He's complained,
and I went like acclaimed. He's the founder of the Talking
so
Heads,
great.
David Byrne.
But that probably works for
funny.
the character you're doing. It's playing an old man. It's not like you're playing a
I know that is the advantage.
However,
Anytime,
a little broke through where you're like, this young man is
panicking. Fucking panicking.
Yeah.
So why Marcia Clark? Why were you nervous? She seems like she'd be fairly easy to talk to.
She was really easy to talk to. I was actually most nervous when I had to call her and explain the bit to her. I'm obsessed with the OJ trial, and yet I didn't know what to say. And I'm like, do you say I'm a big fan?
Right.
Like, I don't know what.
I admire your lack of ability to get it done.
Yeah. But I admire her ability. So I was like, hey.
Yeah.
I started spinning. Nick has a photo of me talking to her on the phone.
Yeah, really funny.
I went,
so
hi,
nervous.
I believe you already... That was that thing like when like high school students give a speech and they use too many words. Like,
Yeah.
We are already at the point where we are trying to talk to you. It was just like... It was spinning out of control.
Yeah.
She was the sweetest, though.
And she was nice?
She was
She was
awesome.
really cool.
She was awesome. And we talked to her about like Cochran and like this was before the show. The show had come out, but the documentary hadn't come out.
People, the FX show was airing at that time.
But not the 30 for 30.
Yeah.
No.
But it was really cool. And I mean, Alan Alda was pretty nerve-wracking. That was our first show. David Byrne. It's a lot of the folks who are also like I saw F. Murray Abraham, who you would know from like Homeland Now, and Scarface and Salieri and Mozart. And I saw him on the street. He plays he's referenced in our show. And he's like a major plot point in the show, but you never see him. And I saw him on the street, and I was like, "Hey, we do this show. It's called Oh Hello, and we have this bit where you get referenced, but we never see you. Would you like to do it?" And he was like, "But I don't understand. What do you want me to do?" And I was like, "Well, we don't see you on the show, but we'd like you to do it." And he's like, "So in a way, I'm already doing my job."
Yeah.
And you're like,
You say I'm going to come out, and then I don't come out. So I'm already doing it.
but it's really fun, specifically the people who don't have a ton of reference point for who we are or what we do. But at the same time, it's also like Birbiglia did the show the other night, and John and Mike and I have known each other for however long we've all known each other, like almost 20 years. So at that point, you then have like three old friends on stage.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, we had Ray Kelly on the off-Broadway version.
Former police commissioner.
sure.
Ray Kelly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I was nervous about offending him with language, you know?
Really?
But he's like the former police commissioner.
Right, he probably used a little bit of language.
He's also seen everything. He's
Yeah.
seen like heads blown open, so he's not like offended.
Are you a true crime like fanatic, or is it just the OJ trial?
You do like a true crime.
I like a true crime.
Is that why you want to Ray? That's a good point, man. Maybe that's why you want Ray Kelly.
Well, Ray Kelly, we just wanted as like quintessential New Yorker.
He had been a beat cop on the Upper West Side, so he'd been dealing with shitheads like our characters his whole career. But it's honestly for us, it's just the idea of someone who does something. We had a chef on, Alex Guarnaschelli,
Guarnaschelli,
who's on like Chopped and Iron Chef. It's just fun to talk to people who at other who have other kinds of gigs besides just comedians and actors.
Absolutely.
Who are you not able to get that you've been trying to get? There's got to be one guy that you really want, but it's just too busy.
The Rock?
The Rock would be fun.
We have a standing offer to Steely Dan.
Yes, we've been after
would make sense for
Steely
the show.
Dan, Donald Fagen, and Walter Becker are referenced a ton in our show. So all you fans of the Dan out there, get on social media, because you know that
there's a change.org petition to get Steely Dan on Oh Hello on Broadway.
really
Take to the streets.
Yeah.
Do you worry when you're on stage that because there are so many references, like there's a lot of the show that I feel like the humor relates directly to a Broadway crowd.
Yes.
Because there's inside Broadway jokes.
Yes.
There's also a bunch of inside Steely Dan jokes.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, do you worry you're going to be in front of a crowd that is not on the inside of that stuff?
We've yet to meet a crowd that's completely in the pocket with the Steely Dan stuff.
Yeah.
But that's good. People respect that you know something about something. People respect specifics.
Yeah.
They like
And they're
that.
like,
Even
these
if they
two
don't get
guys
it.
care about Steely Dan, even though I don't know, like, I haven't read the liner notes to Gaucho.
Yes.
Are you guys really huge Steely Dan fans? That wasn't
Yeah.
ironic.
I'm a fan of Steely Dan. I think John's a massive fan.
Yeah, I
of Steely
see
Dan.
them every year at the Beacon.
So is that what you do?
I
You
couldn't
just-
go this year because of this stupid Broadway show.
You just sit at home, like, listening to Steely Dan and watching old
Yeah,
tapes of
maybe-
the OJ trial?
Yes.
What if I? Yeah,
I
what if
like that.
happened?
I like a guy with
What
hobbies.
if that happened a lot?
I think that's good.
It's genuinely true.
What about the OJ trial fascinates you?
Oh, I just remember it's so visceral from growing up, and I don't know. My family debated OJ for like all throughout the trial.
Literally, it was all the Mulaney's versus OJ.
Yeah, we had a civil suit against him for taking up a lot of our time.
Yeah.
I remember my mom would watch me suck at basketball, and she'd be sitting in the stands with a Walkman on, listening to the trial on AM radio.
Really?
Yeah.
So when they would debate, it would say your dad thought he was not guilty?
No. Everyone thought he was guilty.
Yeah.
It was whether my parents are lawyers, and they were like, Judge Ito should be clearing the court. You would never allow that.
Oh,
My
see.
dad had worked for a judge named Judge Weinfeld, and you always go, Weinfeld would never stand for this.
Now, are they the kind? Are they both criminal attorneys or civil or?
And my mom's a law professor at Northwestern University, and my dad is a corporate attorney. But they both went to law school and like to talk about everything.
Yeah.
And also, it's just, I don't know. It's just the most. I mean, why did we all watch that 30 for 30? It's the most interesting.
Trust me, I only
There's
ask you
so
because
many
I'm
layers.
completely fascinated and
Yeah.
I
obsessed with the
also
OJ
like
case as well.
LA in the 90s. I like
Yeah.
footage of LA in
Yeah.
the 90s. Is that
No,
okay
it's
to
like
say?
that's great to say. LA footage of the '90s and
Those
like
big,
everyone.
stupid restaurants.
Yeah, those like Mezzaluna, like
Yeah.
those restaurants and like where it was like people were like Westwood is the coolest neighborhood to hang out in.
Yeah.
A lot of big shoulder pads.
Floral ties.
So what did they think of? Did they think Marsha Clark did a good job, or did they think she didn't? And Chris Darden, they must have been like.
Oh, they weren't like Monday morning quarterbacks about all that stuff. I'm trying to remember. It was mainly about Ito.
They didn't like him.
They were like, that is not how you run a courtroom.
Right. Well, historically,
And
he
it
came down.
wasn't.
Yeah, he's not a great judge.
No.
Well, it's hard when the
He
whole
looked
world is
really
watching.
bad.
It's one of the most watched. It's the first time the whole planet got to see a trial happen.
Yeah, I
Like,
would
that
definitely
was
say
a
it's
big
the
one.
most watched
So he was under
trial.
a lot of pressure to not fuck up.
And he fucked up.
Yeah,
But
maybe
he
he
also
blew it.
he
But he
but
also
he also
played to the
approved
cameras,
right.
which
He
is
also
so weird.
approved the idea of the whole world watching. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, like
And then he would, it's just like unprecedented to give like these little soliloquies about what's happening as the judge.
But I think there are a
He
lot of-
and the Anna Nicole Smith judge, Judge Larry Seidlin.
Yeah.
They're my favorite judges because they just would talk emotionally about what was happening all the time.
I think there are a lot of judges that are like a lot of doctors who have these like God complexes that get to stand up in front of people and they're the ones
Sure.
who say what goes
well, it's
and
like
stuff.
it's also
and
like
so-
religious people like, or if you like, I feel like half the rabbis in the country were like wanted to be actors, and they're like, I think I'll be a rabbi, and I'll have a captive audience.
Yeah.
That way.
Right.
I don't know if it's the same with like priests and shit.
I think
like
so,
that.
like Southern priests and stuff.
They gotta
Yeah.
open with a joke,
Yeah.
same as anyone else.
Moyles, the guys who do the circumcisions, like always are doing shtick.
I've never been
It's
to
like,
a bris that didn't have 7 minutes of material.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah,
Why
but
would
I
you
went to
want
one
that?
bris. I can't go back. It was so uncomfortable. Noam's son, it freaked me out. I wasn't used to hearing a baby cry like that. Like it
Yeah.
was just really uncomfortable.
That's my ringtone.
The fucking animal wailing of a
Also,
baby.
I was at a bris where we were all like back against the wall because no one wanted to look, and the moil kept being like, "Come on, gather around."
I had to, from my best friend from childhood, I held his, like, I they give a little wine to the baby to numb it all.
Yeah.
And I was holding like the gauze of wine in the baby's mouth and like had a bird's eye view of the of the fucking operation.
That's terrible.
It was a real trip.
Yeah, it was really.
And then I did it to myself. Well, John had to, John married a Jewish woman, so he did a self. Did you do a self circumcision or no?
Yeah, there's a kit. You can do it at home.
Right. After you break the glass, then you pick up the little shards of glass
Then
and you
you
just
go.
take care of it
Then
there.
the bride and groom depart, and there's this little kit, and yeah.
Did you convert?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's always weird to me. No, I'm
That's-
always
he's like,
saying.
oh, thank God.
That's
That's
cool.
okay, good,
No,
good, good.
meaning when people are religious, and it goes both ways. Where like one has to. I know a Jewish girl, and she wants to get married, but she has to marry a Jewish guy, and she wants him to convert. And I'm like, there's so much to that. Who gives a fuck?
I know, and then she'll get old enough where she doesn't care anymore.
Maybe not, yeah, because it's like just marry a good guy. You gonna marry an asshole who converts or a
Yes.
nice guy who won't? Did she ask you to, or you were just like, I didn't want?
Well,
to?
no, she was raised culturally Jewish, but no, we were married by a comedian. We didn't have a religion.
Who married you?
Dan Levy.
Who's got a special out on
Called
CISO?
Lion on CISO coming out today.
Yeah.
Wow, that worked well.
I know.
Jesus, now Dan owes me.
I know. But he did your wedding, but your family is Catholic.
Yeah, we grew up. We're the most Irish Catholic people.
Did
So
you?
it wasn't important for either one of you guys.
It's important for my family, but the older I get, the
disappointed both families equally.
yeah. And for me, I think at this point, my parents are just like the idea that I would marry someone would be exciting for them.
Do they want you? Do
Whoever
they
it
bug
is.
you?
They've given
it's
up
like
on
Joe Pesci's mom and
in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I'm with him. I get a woman every night, Mom.
Yeah. And everyone comes over and she cooks John late meals.
Why don't you find a nice girl?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think they would just be psyched if I got married. But I don't have as much pressure. There's four. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and they all my siblings have 4 kids. So there's 12 of them. So
Have you come close?
Nah, not really.
Yeah, I mean,
You?
No, man, never engaged, never lived with a woman. Like I've dated long term, a few years, but it's never been like, oh, this is
The one.
yeah.
But you
there was-
you don't have like a philosophical aversion to it. You just kind of haven't. Yeah.
I kind of want a relationship at this point. I'm not pushing.
Yeah, but you
for
don't
it.
think you'd ever get married?
I'm not saying that I may.
Really?
If I love somebody enough, why not? It's like I've seen single life for 48 years.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
What,
Yeah,
what else
you're
do I
like-
need to look for?
Right.
Right.
Well, and you and Sam? I mean, nothing.
No, not at all. I mean, we jerk off on a cracker once in a while, and the kid over here gets.
Kid over here gets a snack.
Get over here.
And that's like a family.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like trying to force
Kind of is what a family is.
Yeah,
like.
it's our
it is.
video.
It literally
Eats our
is.
jizz
It's like
crackers.
everyone.
The parents dump all their shit on you and you have to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Did you guys grow up like theater fans? Because that really did. I brought it up
Yeah.
before, but that struck me when I was watching the show. Was like, these guys know a lot about Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, but there's a ton of theater from the Goodman to the Steppenwolf and Second City, and there's lots of smaller theaters there. Also, everything from Broadway either will preview there or tour there pretty quickly. And I was a theater usher at the big theaters where Broadway shows would come.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I did some plays. I liked plays all right. I mean, honestly, it's a weird thing because it's both, as we say, like a love letter to theater, but also like a stalker's note written in lipstick on a mirror. It's like there's a lot of the things about plays is stuff that we can't stand about plays.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I think helps audiences because, like, if you're not a theater fan, if you go, you're like, oh, I've seen that. That's one of the things I fucking hate in a play.
Yeah.
What do you hate in a play?
I mean,
Fake smoking.
fake smoking is annoying. People
Have you ever
screaming.
smoked have you? I mean, has anyone who's smoked
I
in a
smoked
play
for 17 years.
Yeah.
No, but has anyone who smokes in a play ever smoked a real cigarette?
Yeah, they look
it's like
fake
this
smoking.
Weird, like,
Terrible.
Up, they hold it like they're in a 40s movie.
We do it in the show, but like one-sided phone calls, where like you make a phone call and you have to repeat all the information so that the audience knows what the other person's on the other line is saying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like also being in the crowd, being in the audience and sitting next. I was at a play and I watched this woman open up a Tupperware of blueberries or like a plastic thing and she started eating them and you could hear the plastic and I was like, all right, that's fine. And then I saw a guy sitting on the aisle opposite her, older guy, getting so annoyed at her eating the blueberries, and then I couldn't stop watching him nudge his wife and get pissed off about that. Because so it's for me, it's like it's the experience. Partly, it's the experience of going to a play. What's it like to be in the crowd? What's it like to be on stage and acknowledge? Like to me, it's just my issue with theater is how embarrassing it is for everybody to pretend like the two people on stage are in a Chinese restaurant. It's like we're all in this fucking theater together. Like it drives me
I remember
crazy.
in college being second row watching a good friend of mine pretend to be FDR, and I was just like, "What? You're not FDR." at every play, we just saw the front page, which is a great play, but it's set in the 1928, and it starts with this big newsroom full of old timey guys, and I just so wanted to just walk out on stage in a hoodie and be like, "Hey, everyone, knock it off."
Yeah, I was telling him before. I like some plays I see, but I don't love the idea of a live play. And
You don't
maybe
like musicals too.
Yeah, no, I don't. But I don't like. There's something about it. Maybe that's what it is. It's like we all know what's going on here.
I even felt that way about sketch when I moved to the city and was doing like improv and sketch and stand up. Like I had to stop doing sketch because I couldn't stand the idea of being on stage and not being able to acknowledge the audience, or if a bit didn't work, not being able to like. So we actually started doing these characters off 10 years ago at Rafifi in the East Village, and it was partly so that we could acknowledge that we were in a fucking room with people and be like, hey, that joke worked, that didn't work.
Yeah,
we would host it.
We weren't doing like little pieces.
It just made me uncomfortable.
Well, that's the best part of stand-up is acknowledging it feels alive. Like if something flops, you just talk about it.
Yes.
If someone makes a noise, you mention it. It's really hard to not mention what's happening.
A guy was falling asleep during the show a couple nights ago, and I just started throwing Swedish fish at him until he woke up. And he didn't wake up.
He did not. I mean, I
was whipping him at him, and the whole crowd was laughing, and we were all like, "Wake up!" And he would not wake up.
Isn't it nice
was
to
he
know?
dead?
I was just going to say, that was a great story. He was just dead.
Yeah.
But he was like a young. That's the thing. It wasn't like an older gentleman. It was like a young guy in like a hoodie. And John correctly and we can reference and we start to get that into the show.
I said he looked like Vincent Van Gogh if he did devil sticks.
Yeah.
Like he had like a little red beard and he looked like a bum, and I threw Swedish fish at him.
And then we figured he was on methadone.
He really had that methadone.
And more of a nod off than a comfortable
But he was
sleep.
also in the second row, and like that's not an inexpensive ticket. The whole picture made no sense to me.
When you're Nick, I guess specifically, when you're so used to like writing characters that are quick, you know what I mean, for like Kroll show.
Sure.
Is it difficult to then go forward and be like, we're gonna write this 90-minute show?
Yes and no. I mean, in this particular case, I think the reason we we were interested in doing these guys in a broader format is because we've accumulated like 10 years of bits on them. It's like almost like an old vaudeville act. Like you have a bag of bits that you can pull out, and so we have that. And then also it's just they're such specific men that all we need to do is take the time to focus on like their backstory, figure out where they were from, and it started to write itself and expand itself out pretty quickly just because there was already a ton of information on them. I don't know if all of the characters would have worked like this.
That makes sense that you could actually do it long form. And do you guys now at this point, would you just show up at the theater like right before? I would imagine that because
no, my wife Anna is our makeup artist and
of course, you
wig
have to
supervisor. We do we each do like 40 minutes of makeup.
Yeah, it's a good amount of makeup to make us look like
and
this.
we get
I didn't even
there.
think about that.
We get there and we're still changing jokes and we're still messing around. So we sit there and just talk over what we want to do that night.
Yeah, it's kind of the most fun version of for me at least of like what you always hoped show business would be, which is like you go to your theater, and in this case it's like we've got each other to sort of go through and talk about bits that we want to change and tweak, and then all of a sudden you have this guest come in and they join you and you you have this sort of unique to the night experience, and then maybe you go have a drink or a restaurant afterwards. It just feels like you're like, oh, like back when you thought about like what show business was.
Yeah.
It's kind of that.
All day you have free, and then you go do it at night. You
Yeah.
know? And then it's like it's like having, all told, over 10 years, we have like 3 hours of jokes that we can interchange.
Right.
And you also get to share the stage, which is so fun because there's
Yeah.
times when you can just stop talking.
Yeah.
That's a bummer with stand-up is you're just like, fuck, I don't feel it tonight. Or I'm like, and you don't have anyone to be like, can you just handle the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's very difficult sometimes when you don't want to do it and you're like, oh man, I got 45 to go.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't stop talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy making each other break?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I
Yes.
just noticing that.
Did you ever see on Carol Burnett when
Hard?
Harvey Korman and Tim Con? Have you ever seen?
Well,
No,
that's
walk
our
me through it.
fear.
Walk
That
us
is
through
our that is sort of our fear is that like, in comedy. I think comedians and folks are like, oh, look at them, look at them break, how fucking. But John genuinely makes me laugh every night.
We're
and
not fake breaking. I'm doing things to disrupt the show to make him laugh.
yes,
Right.
and the audiences do enjoy.
And then the audience makes me laugh.
Yes.
Because we were about to say our final lines of the show, which are, sort of like in a spotlight, very emotional, all quiet music playing. And this woman just went, "Hey, dude!"
Yeah.
so loud. And I laughed so fucking
Yeah.
hard.
It's true.
Isn't
That's
it nice
great.
to have the freedom to laugh if it fucks up? That's so great, as
Yeah.
opposed
Yeah.
to doing a dramatic piece.
It's crazy. It's,
We set the tone early in the show that this is not a professional effort. And you all need to get used to it.
Well, you can all go see it. If you go to ohhellobroadway.com, you get tickets. It's at the Lyceum Theater, which is on 45th Street, and it's only playing through January 15th.
And it's legitimately funny. I saw it
It
at
really
Cherry
is
Lane
funny.
when I did it. It's a really great show.
Thanks, Jim.
No,
Yeah.
it's great, man.
And you can get rush tickets if you go to the theater
on day of.
day of.
Yes.
Less expensive.
So go get tickets. Thank you guys very much for being here.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see you,
having us.
Tim.
And,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we'll
And
have you
can we
back
just
again
quickly
soon.
talk about Scientology for 45 minutes?
I would love to. I would love to. I'm doing a documentary.